Main event, Athena and Willow Nightingale for the ROH Women's Championship.
Do you want to talk a bit about putting this in the main event? Did you like the idea?
I did, because I thought that this going in and watching the show on Thursday, this was the story that did have like the longest history. It's a rubber match. And I think it's honestly like I feel with like the criticism that sometimes rightly, sometimes not fair that AEW gets. I think like there's instances of both. They do need to make something like in a case like this. I didn't see the argument against it.
Yeah, me neither. Like simply for the fact that, it's not just that your world title program that you've been building has fallen through. It's that the backup for your world title program that you've been building has also fallen through. Yeah. And if that's not enough justification alone to put your women's world title match in the main event, I don't know. Like, it would have been a huge insult. Like if they put a match put together in 2-3 days. I mean, it would have been expected. And I don't know if anybody would have been all that surprised. But the fact that they went ahead and did this, I thought it was absolutely wonderful.
In another era, they might have put the Fight Without Honor on last if this was all things being equal. I think they made the right choice here. I mean, you could argue following the crazy weapons match would be very difficult for the flow of the show, but they went with this, and I think it was the right call. And this audience was more than ready to accept this as the main event.
I thought it turned a negative into a positive. Like it made this pay-per-view historical. As the first ROH and really Tony Khan promoted pay-per-view to feature a women's main event. Mm-hmm. So, beyond like having that as a selling point, because the rest of this card didn't really have it all that much. Like you mentioned, a good bit of PR to maybe balance some of the rightfully, or wrongfully criticized weaknesses of Tony's booking. And both these talents are really hot right now. Athena on this run and Willow coming off of, I think, what she's been doing on New Japan Strong in the Owen Cup. It was absolutely the right call.
Would this have made any difference if they had announced this the night prior, that this was going to headline the show to get some much needed buzz for the show that I think we can agree it was lacking?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because you do want, they could have done that. They could have had that as an extra selling point, but they chose to either leave it as a surprise or maybe really you got no mention of the show at all on Wednesday. So we didn't even know Claudio versus Pac yet on Wednesday. So you wouldn't.
I'm saying just to, you announce it on the Honor Club show, right, that's going to circulate the day of and hopefully get you some last minute attention.
So it seemed like they at least dangled that carrot, with Athena and Willow and tweeting it out. And maybe they felt that was enough. I was happy with the surprise. Would it have made a big difference, or would it have been a turnoff for some people, John?
I don't know. I can't answer that question. I think that there would have been a lot of positivity from it, and I can't speak if other people they wouldn't be satisfied with that. I don't know why match order is so why that would necessarily turn you off. But when people do this, I mean, it's sort of you look at, to me, the main event, it's the signal that this is the match we're using to sell the show, because these are our most valuable people. Once you bought the show, it's essentially the match order, and it's a cool thing to go on last. It's a nice signal from the company. But I think ultimately you want your main eventers are the ones that we will make a difference in the business by promoting this as the main event.
Right.
And I think you want to get to that point.
I mean, I guess it's just sort of your classical definition of what a main event is, the match at the end of the night, which has definitely gotten away from being the most promoted match. But I think there's something also to be said about being able to maintain a crowd's energy at the end of the night.
Listen, if we're talking about what I thought was a pretty great show, and were the women able to follow this? Yes, that's a huge feather in their cap that they came out and followed what was, I thought, 3 excellent matches before this, and that 4-way tag. They had seen some excellent wrestling, and they came out and not only followed it, but they did a totally different match that was unique in and of itself. And Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman, they were so vital to be able to explain what they were doing. And the audience seemed to get into a number of these moves as well. They were reacting too.
So just on that note, Ian and Caprice were excellent throughout this entire show. I mean, if somebody wanted to say that they're Tony Khan's best commentary team, I I wouldn't doubt that. I wouldn't fight you over it. Like they were fantastic, and especially for this Ring of Honor history steeped type of call, I don't know if you could have picked a better team. Yeah, Riccaboni is just an excellent color or commentator. They're both fantastic. But yeah, this match was a historical match that was built, and it made use of its spot to tell the history of Ring of Honor.
So like the match is building. They're working on each other, with Athena going after the knees of Willow. And then we start to get into a series of each going for different moves of women from Ring of Honor's past in their women's division. And we see Athena hit the Smash Mouth. It's Willow that hits Athena with the Smash Mouth, which
You
was
had sorry, please finish. Yeah.
we had, and I didn't get them all, so add if you do, but we had the Smash Mouth, which was Sumi Sakai's finisher. Then
had,
the Royal.
Before that, we had Allison Danger's Shimmering Warlock, which was her Shining Wizard.
Right, yes. Then the Royal Butterfly, which was Sarah Del Rey's move. The Mind Trip, which was Daisy Hayes, the Snapmare driver. And then Obliteration, which was Mischief's move by Athena. And like, I don't know how much of the audience was recognizing this without the commentary, but they were reacting like these were significant moments. And the announcers were identifying most of these as well, like at least the author of the move. And it just took this match to like another level where it was the symbolic nature of two women headlining an ROH card. And we still have the heel babyface dynamic, but this is also like, this was like your emotional storytelling match that nothing on this show had. Even like your Claudio Pack, like it was not this level of what they were drawing upon, which was like the history of ROH.
It provided, I think, a greater sense to the viewer of what this match represented. And that's a Ring of Honor women's match finally main eventing a Ring of Honor pay-per-view. And them doing this, to me, felt like very symbolic of them wanting to bring all the unrecognized people from, a time when this was really just not even, like, you wouldn't have had a women's match on every single show. Bring them over to the main event. I thought it was so incredibly brilliant and so incredibly emotional. We've had sort of like these sort of historical matches in WWE all the time. And just even going back to like, I don't know, what was it? The Ronda, what is it? Charlotte, Becky match, or even like Bianca Belair versus like Sasha. I don't know, like, if there was any thought during those moments to do these sort of callbacks to the history of, women's professional wrestling within the company. So whoever devised this, whether it was these two or whatever agent helped produce this, I thought it was wonderful because not many people talk about the history of Ring of Honor women's wrestling. And for that group of women to get that level of recognition in this main event, I thought it was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was an element I wasn't necessarily thinking about, that like going into this match, and then they introduced this and it was such a strong part of the match. Willow hits a Spicoli driver off the turnbuckle for a 2 count and then is thrown into the steps, and the O face is hit by Athena, and this crowd thinks it's over. And when Willow kicks out, this was one of the loudest pops of the entire show, and it was just monstrous when Willow kicked out. And she comes and she goes for the doctor bomb, hits it, and Athena kicks out. So we have both of them kicking out of their big finishers. And Athena then hits a second O-face, but this time goes for a crossface instead of the pin. And Willow is fighting it. She's fighting it, and she's away from the ropes and finally goes out as the referee signals for the bell at 20 minutes and 25 seconds. And yeah, you can debate because, man, this place would have been unglued if Willow won this match. But they felt it would be better to tell this Athena story as the undefeated champion. And I think that you still look at Willow of someone that took such a step forward with this Owen win, and with both of them. They both did a fantastic job in this main event.
Yeah. Remind me how Cody lost at WrestleMania.
Was it just a spear? I can't remember off the top of my head at this hour.
I would have been way more satisfied if he had this type of finish, dude, because this was like about the most heroic way to lose a match as a babyface could have. to pass out after like multiple attempts like this to a submission. I thought it was a terrific finish. And then really kind of heightened by like Willow's excellent struggle while in the move. Like the whole arena is chanting for her to reach the ropes, and you see the distance and you realize it's impossible, and your heart kind of breaks. But she gained so much, I would say, from this level of like title performance that I mean she wins. I think you can't get upset at them wanting to extend this Athena streak. She's gaining, I would say, a lot of buzz, like even surpassing, I think, the reach of Ring of Honor. And I think there's just
You've also
more.
elevated the women's division to a point that it is now like she's like Asuka level in NXT, that you can legitimately headline future shows with Athena. Like that is the champion you have built to and now established that you can put her in this role, and it's accepted and the audience loved it and the matches can follow.
What a like month for like Willow Nightingale. It feels like, she's done so much. Had that match with Julia, won the Owen Cup, and then like had a main event.
Well, they played that up. Like, can she pull off like the three-peat here of like these big unexpected wins, and came up and did not get it. Like it would have been a major win to do this, but I was not as like against this, because I think overall this main event, it did so much for both. Like they both gained so much from this. And I thought this was like, honestly, it was like a great commercial for ROH that you want to follow, like what is the next steps for this. So yeah, it's certainly over delivered for me.
Yeah, I came out of this feeling like that as well. Like this is a great sampler, maybe more than a sampler of like, what Ring of Honor offers. Like a lot of great performances from people that I would say never make any AEW appearances, like people like the Righteous, people like I guess who else we got here? Like Trisha Dora and like Layla Hirsch, even I thought had a great match. Certainly Athena, like more than lived up to her status as like feeling like a leader of the roster here. So I'd recommend really the entire show, especially the pay-per-view portion.
It was the first time I can say in these like this year that like I watched an ROH show and I really felt like an identity for it and a purpose for it as well, for some of these performers that are not going to get any of this kind of showcase in AEW. Like there is a place for this. It might not be the most optimal, but like tonight felt like a show that was like, this is the current roster and it is self-sufficient on its own, and like certainly a much lesser like AEW influence on the show too, of like just relying on like loans, for instance. And anyway, so yeah, a thumbs up show.